Many years ago, there was a court case of an individual who killed cold-blooded another individual. And in court, the defense brought up the donut excuse. That this person was a donut addict, ate so many donuts, and especially that day, and they had such a sugar rush. And as a result, they acted crazy and murdered somebody. Well, it was thrown out of court. It was thrown out of court. But sometimes we have that kind of excuse, right? That we, something made us do it. Something made us do it. In other words, you looked at me funny. You said something not nice to me. Blew up and, gave you a shove. Well, don't speak that way. Don't look at me that way. So we have what I call the donut excuse. That something made me do it. And therefore it's excusable. It's not. Even if anytime we're out of control, it's because we didn't allow what our natural character quality is of Mayach Shaltat Alev, that the mind has dominion over the heart, to bring us and rein us in, to have a restraint. And that mind that has dominion over the heart gives us a capability of knowing that God is present. And if God is present and watching and seeing my actions right now, so I got to do what's right in God's eyes and have this self-restraint as a result. In other words, it's never excusable, our actions, because the presence of God, the fear of, and hence the fear of God, meaning the fear of He's present, and not because He's going to punish me, but because He's present and I know, therefore I got to do the right thing. You got to do the right thing. We see sometimes, when we're in the presence of someone who we really, really look up to, like the Rabbi, and we're in their presence. So that sense of being in presence of greatness makes you act differently. Sometimes they don't even have to be such a great person. It can just be someone who's beyond us and we respect them. In their presence, we act differently than when we do with people that are on our kind of, level. So that's the idea of the presence of God, that we act differently and behave differently as a result. We kind of lost it. Well, Mayach Shaltat Alev, the mind has dominion over the heart, and we lost it. Well, we're responsible to maintain it, that we could be mindful, that we could have the mind controlling the heart, at least behaviorally. Might feel it inside, but we just don't express it with our modes of expression, the levushim, the garments of self-expression of the soul. In our actions, we don't express it. In our speech, we don't say it. And even the meditated, cogitated, willful thought, we don't think it. We are capable of that and responsible for that. Now, the amazing thing and the paradox over here is that the Beinoni yet will look at that person and feel humbled less than that individual. So the individual themselves are fully responsible, the Kal Shebakalim, the person who's so far removed, and yet at the same time, the Beinoni who's seeing this individual, as our sages say, Havishval Ruch B'fnei Kol Adam, that you should be lowly in your estimation before every individual, including this person who loses control. And the Beinoni is completely in control of their behavior, and yet they feel less than. Why? Because it's their place that caused them. They're responsible for that? We're going to get more into that to explain how that paradox works. But indeed, it is a paradox. truths come in paradox. Powerful. Questions, comments, thoughts on this very small portion that is very large indeed. Two question marks before you ask a question. Reminder today, Rambam at 1 o'clock. I don't see anything on Facebook. Or on Instagram.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Michael. Please share.
In today's Pasha, in the Torah chapter,
Mm-hmm.
it's written that when Moses goes out in the tent
Mm-hmm.
to speak with Hashem, because Israel didn't follow the words of God and pray to the golden calf, Joshua stayed beside him, and it's they describe Joshua with the word child, and Joshua is the successor of Moses, and in the commentary is written that the word child is chosen because even that he knew he will one day be the successor of Moses, that he is humble like a child to Moses, and that's the same concept, I think.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. Yes, a great sense of humility. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So I do see over here. Hello, it says it's very humbling. It is. So, what does this mean in our personal lives? That we come across people who are not so I. And, would be like not someone to look up to. There are better people to look up to. So the truth is, if we recognize that this person is created in the image of God, has a piece of God within them, so if we focus in on that, then we can bring out often the true goodness of that individual, even though they may not be living with it. If we focus on their behavior, then we're going to naturally feel greater than them because our behavior is better. The Alter Rebbe will make a argument based on even in behavior, how you could still feel that you're less than and therefore be humble before every person. There's another way, is that we are able to focus in on the essence of the person rather than the way they present themselves through behavior. And when we can tap into the core of the individual, the neshama, the soul, and the pureness of it, then that gives us the capability of not only being humbled, but actually helping them to bring out their inner greatness. Because for them, their animal soul is covering over and not allowing the divine soul to emerge. So when you can connect to that inner part of that individual and perceive that, and relate to that, then you can help them even bring out their true greatness. Here in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe is not speaking about that, because he's speaking about the Beinoni and how the Beinoni for themselves can humble, subjugate, diminish, crush even the negative side from within them. So these are methods to do that. Other places it speaks about how we can even go deeper and connect to the core essence of the soul of the other individual, and ultimately engage them in a way that you not only do you learn something from them and gain from them, but you help them in their lives that they can minimize, diminish their negativity and allow the core essence of their soul to emerge. How? Because that's what you connect to in them, as opposed to connecting to merely their behavior or their lack of behavior in the moment. That's something even more, even more profound idea that we can achieve. Yeah. Okay. Davida, shouldn't we see the others as if they are ourselves, so we can have a positive in them and binding the negative feelings and thoughts? Yeah, so we just dealt with that. Yeah. Very good, Davida. Denise, since we are still Beinoni and training in certain people and our lives are far removed from Hashem, is it permissible to guard yourself from negative people? So, yeah, so the more we work on ourselves, that we're strong ourselves, the less we need to protect ourselves from others, because they're not going to affect us. The weaker we are, the more we need to create the boundaries. So, not to say that boundaries shouldn't be made, but recognize that those boundaries are only necessary because we're not yet at a place where we have the inner strength that we could deal with that. So imagine, someone saying negative things to you, and there's a story of two women who were fighting over something, and next to Hasidic Rebbe, and I forget his name now, and they came to him in their debate, who's right, and he sided with one of the ladies. So that lady gave like cursing him and speaking, and he wasn't affected at all. And his wife came and says, how can you let her speak that way? She doesn't mean it. He said, she doesn't mean it. Then she a barrage even worse than the first. And he says to her, tell me, if I give you a blessing that you could have a child like me, would you want that blessing? Oh, please, yes. I told you she didn't mean it. That's a strong person, that you can get a barrage of nastiness, and you're not affected by it because you know who you are, and someone else can't bring you down as a result of it. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a message there to learn. There's something to learn from every person. Yes. That's not the point here. There's a message. That doesn't mean the negativity is the message. There's something to take. Yes. Something to grow from. Yes. But you're not taking the negativity. So he didn't have to create the boundaries. The wife came and said, don't let us, create this boundary. He wasn't affected by it that he needed to. I mean, that's, a very Gahibene Yid, a very lofty soul. But so we need to understand sometimes we do need to create the boundaries when people are toxic or people are negative and they bring us down. But we need to know, fine, it's affecting us. It's pushing a button in us, which I get. And we're all that way. After all, like Denise, like you said, we're only a Beinoni in training, right? So that can happen. So sometimes we need to create that boundary, for that negative person who might negatively affect us. But at the same time, recognize that that's, in a sense, it's our challenge. How do we rise above, and recognize that. Now, if you can't, you can't. And it's not like, oh, I'm terrible because of it. No, this is where you're at, and this is what you need to deal with. Yes. As Rachel, as we all have to wait together for them. For who? I didn't get what you're saying, Rachel. I think you're saying something in the midst of something else, or someone else's statement, maybe. Davidas, okay. Got it. No problem. Yeah, that's true, Laurie. Having no reaction, I don't know what happened to that statement, can have an effect that makes them even more angry. That's true. But it's being authentic. Be real. It's not about making them more angry so I'll, won't say a word. No. More on that when we do Tanya therapy, or one-on-one if you need it. But I think you get the basic idea. All right, folks. Is the purpose of the pursuit to transmute negative energy into positive? If you can, yes. How can an ordinary person like me connect to their essence? Sounds like a job for a tzaddik. A good question, Alice. So, for a Jew, for example, well, the essence of the Jew is the fact that they're a Jew, right? That they have a Jewish soul. So connecting to that, that's the core essence of the individual. And that can even be your spouse, by the way. It can be your children. Sometimes, oh, my kid is, being rotten. Or, my, 40-year-old kid is being rotten. Yeah, but it's a Jew. So there's connecting to the Jewishness, the essence of who they are. So there is something to that. There is something to that. The core essence, or to the humanness of a person. Beyond what the facade of behavior. Right, to the neshama. How can it be possible for a Jew not to crave a connection while knowing it's possible? Yeah. Okay. All right, amazing. You're all amazing. Wishing everybody a wonderful Shabbos. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad Zech and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day.